everybody, Tyrone the God 3 here. I know it's been a while since I've done some Dragon Ball Super reviews. Some things came up, so I had to go ahead and just lump both of these two episodes together into one review, and then I'll review episode 102 at a later date. I do apologize, but here's how it's going to go. So, episode 100 is Out of Control, the Savage Berserker Awakens. And then episode 101 is the Impending Warriors of Justice, the Pride Troopers. So episode 100 basically is, after Krillin gets beat, we see that Universe 6 goes in to fight some of the Universe 7 characters. And Caulifla ends up fighting off against Goku. And when this happens, Caulifla learns how to transform Super Saiyan. Well, Super Saiyan 2, obviously. But before that even happens, she ends up transforming Ultra Super Saiyan. And I guess this is the series' attempt to recreate that moment that was in Dragon Ball Z where Trunks turned Ultra Super Saiyan. Although it's not nearly as dramatic, it's not nearly as emotionally bounding, and there's only one scene happening, and it's very brief. And the lesson gets grazed over so quickly. We don't get the chance to really learn the drawbacks of Ultra Super Saiyan and why it's a useless form. It's just sort of something that's passed over. I guess it's to get the plot moving along, the real plot moving along. And this was just serving as sort of a subplot. And that's one of the things that sort of bothers me, is that when Dragon Ball Super tries to recreate a Dragon Ball Z moment, obviously it doesn't work because timing and pacing is a lot of things. Even I can admit that Dragon Ball Z has flaws. I'll admit Dragon Ball Z has this bad flaw of over-exaggerating things to a large degree at some scales. Like, for example, Trunks powering up to Ultra Super Saiyan did last long. Did it need to last that long? Not necessarily. I think lasting a certain amount of time, like maybe 2 minutes, would have served just as well to serve the point. Like, basically how Trunks turning Ultra Super Saiyan affects the surroundings around him and the surge of power that was going through his body to show how powerful that form can get. But it was even longer than 2 minutes, and it was a bit obnoxious. Like, I can get that. However, at the exact same time, it's because of the lack of it's because of the lack of knowing a safe medium in order to do this, where Dragon Ball Super falls apart. Dragon Ball Super made her transform Ultra Super Saiyan so quickly I almost didn't realize what was going on. And then by the time she learned that the form was useless, it was like 1 second into doing it. So she didn't really learn anything. Or if she did learn it, it was a very brief lesson, whereas Trunks had to go through the harsh realization that the form was useless, while the audience was being told that the form was useless via that scene and the scene with Goku and Gohan witnessing the transformation at around the exact same time, to show both perspectives and give a full explanation to the audience as to why the form won't work. But then again, that I'm probably looking too far into it. Regardless, Caulifla immediately learns how to transform Super Saiyan 2 afterwards, and Goku and her have this pretty decent looking fight. Kale tries to assist, but Goku basically tells her to piss off. Kale gets upset because Caulifla doesn't back her up on that, and the emotional trauma that this gives Kale is enough to transform her into her Berserker Savage form, which is basically Broly. And obviously this means that the Broly form isn't canon because the Z Warriors act like they don't recognize it at all. Honestly, I think it's weird that the legendary Super Saiyan Broly is a movie that's non-canon. Yes, I know all the movies are non-canon. You don't have to tell me that. But legendary Super Saiyan Broly literally fits in between the 9-day gap that Cell gave them in order to prepare for the Cell games. It fits snug perfectly. It has no real conflicts with anything, so I see no reason why it can't be a canon movie, but it's just a principle in matter that all movies aren't canon. Regardless of such, Kale causes a whole havoc through the entire tournament. Not a lot of people get knocked out, though. They just sort of get hit and end up causing massive destruction. Goku goes Super Saiyan Blue, but for some reason that's not enough. I've given up on the power scaling. Anybody's as strong as anybody in this series as far as I'm concerned, so I don't even know who, I don't even know who scales up to who anymore. I'm not even going to try to figure that out. Regardless, I guess it's to show off that Kale's supposed to be super strong in this form. And it's to show off how strong Jiren is, because Jiren comes out and wipes out Kale with no problems. And then afterwards, Hit comes in and stands off and goes, hey, that was very impressive. And I really wanted this fight to happen. I was like, oh, goody, I would love to see Hit fight Jiren. Yeah, Hit would lose, obviously, because of the opening sequence showing us that Goku fights Jiren. But don't you think it would have been freaking cool to see Hit fight Jiren? I would have loved to see that. But no, it doesn't happen. We move on into episode 101. In episode 101, fights continue. Goku tries to fight Jiren. Doesn't end up happening, though. Pride Trooper comes in. Toppo intercepts. Goku ends up fighting off against some of the other Pride Troopers. But then he's not alone. 17 and 18 actually come in and try to fight off some of the Pride Troopers as well. While that's happening, Khalifa tries to get Kale together. But then more of the Pride Troopers end up attacking them. So when that ends up happening, Khalifa tries to fight all the Pride Troopers by herself. Kale tries to, but she's useless. So what ends up happening is that 17 and 18 end up beating the other Pride Troopers with their weird special powers. Goku ends up beating one. And then Kale is so upset that she can't help Khalifa. She transforms, but she doesn't transform into a hulking Broly looking form. She actually transforms into what looks like a pretty nice medium for that form. In fact, like, it's her controlled, and I actually am really impressed by this. Like, I think this should have went ahead and been the form. You could have just took her pupils away and had her go into a rage of berserkness, just like Gohan did when he would go into these fits of rage. So I don't see why they couldn't have done that, because this looks a lot sleeker. It looks a lot cooler. I love this design. And it looks like it would have worked out a lot more than just making her a Broly clone. Like, this is more acceptable. So then they end up fighting together. They end up in a beam struggle. Kale ends up transforming into the Broly form anyway, but she has control over it now. They win the energy blast struggle, and that's basically it. Kale is knocked out. Well, she's not knocked out of the tournament. She just knocks out. Like, she passes out. And basically, Universe 6 chooses not to fight Universe 7 for the time being, or at least Khalifa chooses not to fight them, because first of all, she's outnumbered, second of all, she's tired, third of all, Goku helped her get to where she is. It really shows that they got a lot stronger within the past 2 episodes, which is why I think it was appropriate to review both of these episodes together anyway. But outside of that, that's basically the end of that, and then we end up seeing Riberon in the back, and we see some weird foreboding that they're gonna fight them next. The pros to both episodes is the fact that, well, for episode 100, the pro is this. I like the relationship that Goku and Khalifa have in terms of like a master-student like relationship. It makes sense if we weren't surrounded, if the series wanted to take more of the time to focus on character development. I feel that this would have definitely become a character development arc for Khalifa. It would have helped her learn a lot more than just briefly fighting Goku. I'm sorry, like, you can't shove a large amount of character development into 2 episodes and say that passes, because it doesn't. It just doesn't. We don't get any backstory on Khalifa. We don't get any real dialogue from Khalifa except, hey, you're strong. Hey, look, I can transform like that too. This form isn't working because it's too slow. Hey, I learned how to do that new form now. What? I could possibly go Super Saiyan 3 even though it's kind of useless? Like, that's it. Like, that's all we got out of her. And then Kale going, I'm sad because Goku is distracting my master from paying attention to me. Roar! Hulk out. Just, really? Like, you're gonna shove all that into 2 episodes? Fine, whatever. But regardless, I do love the relationship that Goku and Caulifla actually have. I feel if it had been focused on longer, it could have been something that be much bigger. But I do love the fact that she calls Goku old man. Like I don't know. I just feel like that fits. I feel like that's a nice little form of attitude that's shown on Goku that I've never seen from any other character before, and it has the potential to be something else. The cons to both episodes. The cons to episode 100 is like I said before, you can't shove all that development into one space, so it felt kind of disproportionate. I really don't like Kale's Broly transformation. If you all have probably noticed, I've made jokes about it. I've shown how mad I am about it in previous reviews, even before it was revealed that she could do it. I mean, even before, it actually happened. It's just, I don't like it. I've never liked it. I think it's completely idiotic. I think it's silly. I think it's a poor marketing ploy to sell toys and get audience members who like Broly to come in and probably make a twisted fanfic where Kale and Broly end up having like kids or something. They all become hulking Broly family. Or I don't like it. I just don't like it. That's pretty much the gist of where my anger pretty much comes from. Cons episode 101, I can't really even think of a lot. I actually do think that they use the Pride Troopers very effectively. I'm glad they didn't make every Pride Trooper about as strong as Toppo and Jiren. That would defeat the purpose of the Pride Troopers being special. I do wish, however, that they would have been a little bit stronger than how they were. It feels like Goku and the others beat them with no real issues. But regardless, that ends up happening. So overall, both episodes were okay. Like they were all right. I mean, to be honest, I didn't like this whole Kale turning into the Savage Berserker arc that ended up happening. First of all, it's only 2 episodes, so it's barely an arc, and it was messy, and it felt like it was a rush to get the Kale toys out and the Khalifa Super Saiyans, Ultra Super Saiyan, and Super Saiyan 2 toys out. And it was a commercial. And that's all it really felt like it should have been. And that's kind of upsetting, to be perfectly honest. I'm not gonna lie. But regardless, at least we do get to see Universe 2's fighters go into work, so that's gonna be fun. The power of love explodes. Universe 2's Little Witch Warriors. And with that said, I'll see you all then, everybody. Tyrone the God 3 out.